The floor layout on the map is as is, however the planned adjustments are shown on the map. To make room for a larger stairwell in the center of the floor plan, 2 inside doors, the storage beneath the stairwell, and a wall were removed. There are also plans to remove kitchen furnishings and add 2 internal doors from the front entry that go into the kitchen. Stairs and the kitchen are among the most significant areas to be remodeled. The above graph shows the serious crime rate in Cincinnati. In 2001, 26,000 crimes were registered. In the year 2002 and 2003, most of the crimes were registered. Though there was a decrease in registration of crime rate in the year 2004, 2005 and 2006, but they were almost equal to the crimes registered in the year 2001. The year 2007 and 2008 registration of the crime rate was the least. On an average, serious crime rate in Cincinnati was around 26,000 between the years 2001 to 2008. The monetary amount spent by consumers on FDA-regulated items is shown in a pie chart. A total of 20 cents has been spent. Over half of this is made up of 11 cents worth of food stuff. Medications for humans and medical equipment are the second and third most purchased items by consumers in the United States. Pet and animal medication goods have the lowest average customer spending, at less than a penny. Overall, customers spend the most money on food goods, while they spend the least money on pet and animal medication products. The line graph compares figures for daily travel by workers in the UK using 3 different forms of transport for over 60 years. The car is by far the most popular means of transport for UK commuters throughout the period shown. In 1970, around 5 million UK commuters travelled by car daily, while the bus and train were used by about 4 million and 2 million people respectively. In 2000, the number of those driving to work rose to 7 million and the number of commuting rail passengers reached 3 million. By 2030, the number of people who commute by car is expected to reach almost 9 million, and the number of train users is also predicted to rise to nearly 5 million. For Boston Logan International Airport, Massachusetts, the average temperature and precipitation are shown on the graph. The warmest month is July, when the high is around 25 degrees, while the coldest month is January, when the low is just below zero. With 110 millimeters of rain in March and 85 millimeters in August, March is the wettest month and August the driest month. It's hotter in July than in any other month, and it rains more in March than any other. There's a nuclear power plant in the background, and the sky is overcast. In the front, behind a row of trees, the power plant's many concrete chimneys spew white smoke. The sky is mostly foggy, although there are a few patches of blue sky in the distance. An unattractive power station is contrasted against a lovely sky in this striking photograph, which might be located in the United States. There is a predicted growth in global oil output in million barrels per day seen in this bar graph. There was a period between 1980 and 2000 when oil output worldwide averaged roughly 11 million barrels per day from non-OPEC sources. In the period from 2000 to 2010, the world's oil output grew by almost 18 million barrels per day. OPEC Middle East accounted for around 8 million of these. Oil production throughout the world is expected to decline slightly from 2010 to 2020, with an average daily output of 17 million barrels. OPEC Middle East provides the great majority of this. Global oil output is expected to peak at roughly 17 million barrels per day between 2010 and 2020, with the bulk of that coming from OPEC Middle East countries like Saudi Arabia and Iraq. In the diagram, you can see how the solar panel warms up water. With order to collect the sun's rays, the box is covered in a black material with a clear top. To begin, the water pipe transports cool water from the input to the output. The water pipe is heated by the sun's rays, which causes it to heat up at the same rate as the weather. The heated water is then collected in a separate tank when it exits the vent. As a last point, solar water heaters are cost-effective as well as ecologically sound. The number of publications published by male and female university professors is shown in this graph. Men authored 2,000 papers in 2006, whereas women published just 1,000 articles in the same year. There has been a steady rise in the number of papers written by female academics since that time, with the total reaching 3,000 in 2012. The number of articles written by women is rapidly approaching that of their male colleagues, who wrote over 3,200 pieces in 2012. Although male university professors wrote more papers than female professors in the last few years, female professors have been writing more and more articles in the last few years. In 1990 and 2000, the fertility rate of Gulf nations was compared using this bar graph, which shows the number of births per woman. In 1990, Oman had the highest fertility rate in the world, with a rate of 7 births per woman. In terms of births per woman, Saudi Arabia came in second with around 6.8. Bahrain and Kuwait, on the other hand, had the lowest fertility rates in the region, with about 3.5 children per woman. Oman and Saudi Arabia had the highest fertility rates in 2000, with each woman giving birth to around 5.5 children. There are an average of 2.5 births per woman in Bahrain. Compared to other Gulf Arab countries, Oman and Saudi Arabia had the highest per woman fertility rates in 1990 and 2000, while Bahrain had the lowest. In addition, the fertility rates of all the nations depicted in the graph decreased between 1990 and 2000. The pie chart shows what percentage of individuals are well versed in money management. More than half, 55%, of respondents said they were somewhat organized, while 21% said they were extremely so. 20% of people are unorganized, despite just 4% of people being completely unorganized. Generally speaking, the vast majority of individuals are pretty organized, whereas a small minority is completely unorganized. The map of Australia's population density is depicted in this graph. To put this into perspective, each dot represents 1,000 individuals. When we glance up, we see Darwin and a smattering of specks closely spaced on the horizon. There are only a few dots in the center, and they are long distance apart. Looking to the right, we can make out Brisbane and Sydney, as well as several more little dots. Melbourne and Hobart are clearly visible, as are a huge number of dots clustered together, indicating a high population density. As a result, the major Australian cities have a higher population density. This graph depicts water use in the Gulf nations in 2000, shown as a percentage of total consumption. Agricultural usage is the primary use of water in 4 of the 6 nations studied. Oman, 83%, Saudi Arabia, 85%, and the United Arab Emirates, 62%, make up the rest, 65%. Even yet, just 2 to 18% of the total water used for industrial purposes is used in the 6 nations on this list. Agriculture accounts for a majority of water use in Gulf nations. Industrial usage is lowest in all countries save those in the Gulf. The table shows a clear correlation between the liters of beer consumed per capita and the number of alcohol-related deaths. The maximum beer consumption in 2002 was to be found in the Czech Republic, Germany and Austria, and that each of these regions also had by far utmost alcohol-related deaths in 2005. The Czech Republic, with the greatest beer consumption per liter, namely over 130 for 2002, also experienced well over 1 million liters alcohol-related deaths by 2005. The region with the second highest beer consumption was Germany, with nearly 107 liters, and it also recorded the second highest number of alcohol-related deaths, namely 1.185 million. In all regions except Canada, it can be seen that the higher beer consumption, the higher the alcohol-related mortality rate. Here is a graph showing how couples divide their time and effort. There were fewer women, -1.25, than males, -0.75, who did more than half of the housework. Cleaning jobs are held disproportionately by women, 0.2, compared to males, 0.1. Respondent working part-time and partner working full-time elicited equal results from men and women, 0.3. They felt the same way about the twofold increase in hourly wages, 0. In general, the attitudes of men and women to the division of labor differed at times. The bar graph shows how different techniques of shopping affect customer satisfaction. 40% of people had a terrible experience while buying online, whereas 75% of people reported a favorable experience while purchasing from a friend or family member. People were most satisfied with their purchases if they were made in person rather than online. The frequency with which various forms of technology are utilized is depicted in this bar graph, which displays the data in millions. There are 8 million people that use the telephone as their primary mode of communication. TVs, 6 million, computers, 4.5 million, radio, 3.5 million, and iPods, 1.5 million, round out the top 5 devices, 1 million. The camera is the least popular technology, with just about 300,000 users. Telephones and webcams are the most frequently utilized technologies, respectively, in the United States. The graph below shows the many forms of decay in neutrons and protons. The yellow one has gone from having 6 protons to having 82 protons, with neutrons ranging from 6 to 126. However, when we examine the data, we can see that the range is also the same for the blue one, however the number is significantly higher. Furthermore, we can observe fission, which is represented by green, proton, which is represented by red, neutron, which is represented by purple, and fusion, which is represented by blue. The color black represents a stable nuclide. Finally, the graph depicts the many types of decay as well as the interaction between neutrons and protons. Below median rainfall is predicted for Australia from October to December 2002, as seen on this map. Yellow and red hues suggested a 60% to 55% possibility of below average rainfall on the east coast, while blue and green colors showed a 35% chance on the west coast. West coast rainfall is more likely than east to dip below the median, on average. The bar graph depicts the day-to-day fluctuations in the number of people using the London Underground. The station is rarely more than 100% full at any one time of day. At the station's busiest periods, which are 8 a.m. and 6 p.m., there are about 400 people. This isn't unexpected, given that these are the hours when most people are either on their way to work or have just arrived home from it. As a rule, the station is least congested between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. each day. 8 a.m. and 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, are peak hours for traffic.